I want you to just picture a scenario for a second.
Okay.
It's the middle of the night. It is pitch black. You're on a riverbank, and you are totally alone. You've just sent your entire family away because you're about 99% sure they're about to be slaughtered.
So sheer terror.
You are terrified. And then, out of the absolute darkness, someone tackles you.
Just out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere, a figure grabs you. But here's the thing. You don't run. You fight back. You are wrestling in the dirt, adrenaline just pumping. For hours. It's gritty, it's sweaty, it's violent, and it's only when the sun starts to crack over the horizon that you look up and realize you haven't been fighting a mugger. You haven't been fighting an enemy soldier. You have been wrestling with God.
I mean, it sounds like the plot of a psychological thriller or maybe some ancient Greek myth, right? But this is actually one of the most pivotal and frankly strangest defining moments in biblical history.
It really is. Today, we are diving deep into Genesis chapter 32. The story of Jacob wrestling with God. And I have to say, the stack of sources you've pulled for this one is eclectic.
It is a bit of a mix today. We're pulling from sermon transcripts from ministries like Ligonier and Deal Christian Fellowship, some, heavy theological breakdowns from Heart of David Ministries, Jesus Famous.
And my favorite.
And then, to keep things grounded, we've got a very lively Reddit discussion thread where people are just debating the physics and the identity of this wrestler.
I fell down that Reddit rabbit hole for a while. It gets wild. But our mission today is to try and answer a specific question. How does a man who spent his entire life as a professional con artist, his name literally means deceiver, how does he end up in a cage match with the divine, get permanently crippled, and somehow walk away as the winner?
That is the paradox we're looking at. And the sources all suggest this isn't just a story about a weird fight in the desert. It's an origin story. It's the moment a man is deconstructed so that a nation can be born.
To get there, though, we have to understand the fighter. Because Jacob isn't exactly Captain America.
Yeah.
He's not. He's not a generic good guy.
No, he's definitely not. To understand the fight, you have to look at the setup. Jacob didn't just stumble into this. He engineered his life to get there. He has a rap sheet.
Let's talk about that reputation. The sources make a huge deal out of his name right from the start.
They do. So, Jacob. In Hebrew, it's Yaakov. One of our sources from Deal Christian Fellowship points out that it literally means heel catcher.
Which sounds like a wrestling move, coincidentally enough.
It does, but it's an idiom. It means supplanter. Or, if you want to be really blunt about it, backstabber. The text tells us that even in the womb, he was fighting his twin brother Esau. He came out of the birth canal literally holding Esau's heel.
So he's gripping on for dear life, trying to get ahead from day one.
Exactly. And that sets the pattern for his entire existence. He spends his young adulthood tricking Esau out of his birthright, basically swindling him with a bowl of soup when Esau was starving.
Oh, that's cold.
Then he pulls the ultimate con. He dresses up in a disguise to fool his blind father Isaac into giving him the blessing that was legally meant for the firstborn.
Taking advantage of a blind father.
It's ruthless. And it works, but it costs him his family. He has to flee to his uncle Laban's house, and the sources point out he spends the next 20 years in a battle of wits there. Laban is a schemer too, so it's like a master class in manipulation. Jacob basically out-schemes the master schemer to build his own fortune.
So when we meet him in Genesis 32, we're looking at a self-made man. He believes he can manipulate any outcome with enough cleverness.
But now the bill has come due. The context of this wrestling match is a crisis, right?
A huge one.
A massive crisis. He's finally heading home to Canaan, but he is stuck between a rock and a hard place. He can't go back to Laban. He burned that bridge. But in front of him is Esau. The last time Jacob saw Esau, Esau made it very clear he wanted to kill him.
And the intelligence report Jacob gets isn't good.
No. Messengers come back and say, your brother is coming to meet you. Which sounds nice until they add the kicker. And he has 400 men with him.
400 men is not a greeting party.
It's a battalion.
That is a hit squad.
That is a hit squad. Jacob knows this. And one of the sources describes his reaction as being greatly afraid and distressed. This is the first time in his life where his wits might not be enough. He can't trick 400 soldiers.
But he still tries to use his wits. I was reading the breakdown of his strategy here, and it's fascinating. He splits his camp into two groups.
Yes. It's a hedging strategy. Pure risk management. The logic is so cold. If Esau destroys Group A, Group B can make a run for it. He is actively preparing for a massacre.
And then he tries the bribe. The Deal Christian Fellowship source actually ran the numbers on this, and it blew my mind.
It's a staggering amount of livestock, isn't it?
Yeah, they listed it out. Hundreds of goats, ewes, rams, camels, cows, bulls, donkeys.
Hmm.
They estimated the modern market value of this gift at roughly $250,000.
$250,000.
Just to say, please don't kill me.
Roughly 200,000 pounds if you're across the pond. It's a massive payout. And notice the strategy. He sends it in waves. He wants to overwhelm Esau with generosity before they even make eye contact. He's trying to buy his safety.
Here is the thing that really stood out to me in the reading, though. In the middle of all this logistical planning, all this asset management, he prays. He actually stops and says, God, you told me to return home. Protect me.
He does. It's a very humble-sounding prayer.
But then immediately after saying amen, he goes right back to scheming. It felt very human.
That is the crucial insight from the We Are IBC transcript. They highlight this contradiction perfectly. Jacob prays like it depends on God, but he acts like it all depends on him. He has a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. He hasn't reached the end of himself yet. He's treating God like a consultant, not a savior.
He's trying to manage the outcome. But before the wrestling match, before the main event, there is this weird little moment that I think is easy to skip over if you're just reading quickly. He has a vision. He calls a place Mahanaim.
Yes. This is pivotal, and honestly, we often miss the depth of it. Mahani means two camps.
Two camps. What does that mean in this context?
The Heart of David Ministries source breaks this down beautifully. Before the crisis peaks, Jacob sees angels of God meeting him. He realizes there are two realities at play here. Camp 1 is his physical reality. His angry brother, his vulnerable kids, his stress, the 400 men.
Okay.
Camp 2 is the invisible reality, the camp of angels surrounding him.
So he knows he has backup.
He sees it. But here's the tragedy. He doesn't integrate it. The source argues that Jacob's spiritual challenge was to blur the lines between those two camps. He needed to learn that the invisible camp was his real security, not his clever strategies or his $250,000 bribe. But he's not there yet. He sees the angels, but he still trusts his money.
That is such a relatable tension, seeing in the spiritual reality, but living in the panic of the physical one.
Completely. And that disconnect is what leads him to the river.
The Jabbok.
Acre of emptying. Right. He sends everyone across. His wives, his maids, his 11 sons. He sends all his possessions. The text says Jacob was left alone.
Just picture that scene for a second. He has stripped himself of everything that gave him status. He is standing in the mud, in the dark, completely vulnerable.
And that is when he gets jumped. The text is very sparse here. It just says, a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day.
Okay, we have to pause here because the identity of this man is a huge subject of debate. I was reading through that Reddit thread you sent, and people were throwing out every theory imaginable. Who is this guy?
It is a theological rabbit hole. The text is intentionally ambiguous. It calls him a man, but later Jacob says, I have seen God face to face. So which is it?
The Reddit users were quoting Robert Alter and some other scholars. Some were asking, is it a river demon? Like a troll under the bridge?
That's the ancient folklore view. In a lot of ancient Near Eastern stories, spirits guard river crossings, these liminal spaces, and you have to fight them to pass. It adds this spooky mythological layer to it all.
Then others suggested it was Esau's guardian angel.
That's a fascinating take. The idea that he's fighting his brother on a spiritual plane before he meets him on the physical plane. Like, if he can win here, he can win tomorrow.
And then there's the psychological take that he's wrestling with himself, just an externalization of his guilt.
Which is a very modern way to read it, battling your demons, right? But the Christian sources in our Stack Ligonier, Deal Christian, IBC, they're all pretty unanimous that this isn't a dream or a metaphor or a generic spirit.
They call it a Christophany.
Exactly, a Christophany. That's a theological term for a pre-incarnate appearance of Jesus, or at the very least, the angel of the Lord who speaks with the direct authority of God.
So assuming this is God, or God in human form, the Reddit thread did point out something interesting about the Hebrew word for wrestled, vayavek.
Yes, it's related to the word for dust. Avak. This wasn't a debate. It wasn't a spiritual struggle where he's sitting by a campfire stressing out. This was a dust-kicking, bone-crunching, physical grapple.
For hours.
All night long.
Which begs the question, if this is God, or even a superpowered angel, why does the fight last more than 2 seconds? Why not just flick Jacob into the next time zone?
That is the million-dollar question. Why engage? Why let it drag on? And the sources suggest that the length of the fight wasn't about God's lack of power. It was about Jacob's
It
stubbornness.
wouldn't quit.
He refused to yield. Think about his life. He has never yielded to anyone. He fought his brother, he fought his father, he fought his uncle. Now he's fighting God. He is scraping and clawing because that is all he knows how to do.
And then comes the turning point.
Mm.
The sun is starting to come up. The man sees that he could not prevail against Jacob, which simply means Jacob wasn't giving up. So he does something simple. He touches his hip socket,
It's just a touch.
and bam, dislocated.
Instantly. The Deal Christian Fellowship source uses a great analogy here. It compares it to a father wrestling a toddler. You know how a dad will get on the floor and let the kid push him around?
Sure, yeah, letting him feel strong.
Exactly. The dad engages on the child's level, but the father has the power to end it whenever he wants. The fact that a mere touch could cripple Jacob proves the man was in control the whole time. He was holding back his power to allow the struggle.
So the wrestling match changes instantly. Jacob goes from fighting to what?
Clinging, that is the shift. Think about the physics of a wrestling match. If your hip is dislocated, you have no leverage, you can't drive with your legs, you can't perform a takedown, you can't even stand properly. You're just dead weight.
So he's just hanging on.
He's hanging on for dear life. He can no longer fight, but he refuses to let go.
And that's when he delivers that famous line, "I will not let you go unless you bless me."
This is the definition of prevailing in this story.
Mm-hmm.
The Ligonier source makes a powerful point here. Jacob doesn't win by overpowering God. That's impossible. He wins by yielding. He wins by realizing he's beaten, he is broken, and his only hope is to hang on to the one who broke him.
It's the paradox of surrender.
Mhm.
You win by losing.
Precisely. He goes from self-reliance, I can fix this with my money, to total dependence, I need a blessing or I die.
And in response to this demand for a blessing,
Yeah.
the man asks a question. What is your name?
Which is strange, right? God knows his name.
Why ask? Is it a test?
The We Are IBC source argues this was a confession. Think about the last time Jacob was asked his name in a pivotal moment. It was by his father, Isaac, years ago. And what did Jacob say?
He lied. He said, I am Esau.
Exactly. He claimed to be someone else to get a blessing. But here, in the dark, crippled, and exhausted, he has to tell the truth. He can't hide behind a disguise.
So we have to own it. I am Jacob.
I am Jacob. I am the heel catcher. I am the deceiver. He has to admit who he has been for his entire life. He has to kill the old self before he can receive the new one.
And once he admits that, he gets the upgrade.
He gets the new identity. Your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel.
What does Israel actually mean? I've heard a few definitions tossed around in the notes.
The sources give us a range, which is pretty common with Hebrew. It can mean God fights, or he who strives with God, or even governed by God.
That is a massive shift from heel catcher.
It transformed him from a self-made man to a God-ruled man. He is no longer defined by his tricks, but by his struggle with the divine. He isn't the guy who grabs heels anymore. He's the guy who held on to God.
So the fight ends. The sun comes up. Jacob names the place Peniel, meaning face of God. But as he walks away to finally meet Esau, he's limping.
This is one of my favorite details in the text. In most hero stories, like a Marvel movie, the hero walks away from the battle chest out looking strong. Maybe a few scratches, but basically intact. Jacob walks away permanently injured.
The Jesus famous source had a really interesting take on this. It argued that the limp wasn't a punishment. It was a blessing.
It's a severe mercy, isn't it? If Jacob had walked away whole, imagine what he would have thought. Wow, I held my own against God. I'm pretty tough. I can handle Esau. He might have gone right back to his old scheming ways.
But the limp makes that impossible.
The limp made him dependent. Every single step he took for the rest of his life was a physical reminder that he leans on God, not his own strength. He literally cannot walk without that reminder.
It reminds me of Paul's thorn in the flesh in the New Testament.
The sources draw that comparison directly. Paul prayed for his weakness to be taken away, and God said, "My power is made perfect in weakness." The limp slowed Jacob down. It meant he couldn't run away from Esau if things went south. He had to trust.
And there's that fun little cultural note in the text, too. Apparently, to this day, observant Jews don't eat the sciatic nerve, the tendon attached to the hip socket, because of this wrestling match.
It's a dietary memorial, a physical reminder in the culture that their ancestor fought God and walked away changed. It anchors the myth in reality, like, we don't eat this part because that's where he was touched. It keeps the story alive at the dinner table.
So let's zoom out and synthesize this for the listener, because we've covered a lot of ground. We started with a guy who was a master manipulator, a lifetime of grabbing heels, tricking people. He gets backed into a corner with 400 men coming to kill him. He tries to buy his way out with $250,000 worth of goats.
But God intercepts him, and I think that's the key verb here. God didn't wait for Jacob to get his act together. God, in a sense, attacked him to strip him of his self-reliance.
He gets broken, physically broken, but he emerges as a prince with a new name.
It really is a complete deconstruction of the human ego. The sources tell us that real power isn't about control. It isn't about the bribe or the clever strategy. It's about clinging.
Which brings this home to us. If you're listening to this, you might not be running from an angry brother with a private army.
Let's hope not. If you are, good luck with that.
But the insight here is that we all have our Esau, don't we? We all have that thing looming on the horizon that we can't control.
Right. For the learner listening today, the wrestling match might be a financial crisis, a broken relationship, a health scare, or just a deep internal anxiety. Our instinct is to be like old Jacob. Throw money at it, scheme, plan, hedge our bets.
We try to split the camps. We try to manage the crisis with our own two-camp strategy.
Exactly. But the lesson of Genesis 32 is that sometimes the obstacle isn't the problem. The obstacle is God trying to get you alone. He wants to dislocate your ability to fix it yourself so that you finally cling to him.
That is a tough pill to swallow. If the struggle might actually be an invitation.
It is. But if you look at the trajectory, Jacob's greatest blessing didn't come when everything was going right. It came when he was terrified, alone, and holding on for dear life in the mud. That's where he became Israel.
So here is a final provocative thought to leave you with. The sources suggest God started the fight. He engaged Jacob. He didn't leave him alone in his deception.
That's right. We often think of God as passive, waiting for us to come to him. But here, he is the aggressor. But he is an aggressor for a redemptive purpose. He engages to transform.
So the question for you is this. What limp are you currently resenting? What weakness or failure are you trying to hide or fix that might actually be the evidence that you've encountered God?
Perhaps that limp isn't a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you've been blessed.
Something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
A pleasure as always.